with me. So I'm very excited and a little bit nervous to be doing this series for you all, but it's something that just runs in my blood. I feel very passionately about self-care and utilizing it as a tool for us to grow and be the people that we want to be. So I created this series to be 3 parts. It's going to be mind, body, and soul. So when I think of self-care, it's not just one thing, and it's not just for one aspect of my life. It's for everything as a whole. So I wanted to touch on self-care for everything that makes us us, not just helping our physical health, not just our mental health, not just our needs and wants. I wanted to cover everything because it's all important. So for the first part of the series, I am going to do mind. So mind equals mental health. Mental health for me is the number one. It's so important, and it's really what feeds our everyday lives. If we are not in a good headspace, then it affects everything else in our life. And so I think that utilizing practices to help our mental health and making sure that we feel confident and happy and secure is very important. So all throughout this series, I want to kind of do a little bit of a back and forth with you all. So taking a pen and paper and writing some of the things, and really to give you some tools to be able to take home from this and do something. So with mental health, what are some of your mental health struggles? I would like you to write them down or just think about them in your head. Now, everybody has different struggles in their life mentally, and there are a lot of different mental health struggles out there. So I do want to note that specifically for this, I am talking about stress, anxiety, and mild depression. So I touch on those topics because those are things that I struggle with and that I feel like I can talk to. So being able to pinpoint what struggles you're having is very important to be able to figure out what that next step is and what you need to do. So how do we manage our struggles effectively? It's about implementing self-care practices that are going to not only support our mental health, but help us grow and get us to where we want to be. It's really about leading us to the path of a better headspace. So you know where you're at and you know where you want to go. So what do we have to do to get to that point? That's the goal. What does self-care look like in terms of mental health? This is a loaded question because it can look like anything. Self-care can look like anything that is effective for you. There's not just one thing that is going to help you. So this can be therapy, can be meditation, journaling, reading books about things that you want to get better at, gardening. It can look like anything. The only important thing about what practice you utilize is that it's going to help move the needle for you. How do we identify the practices that are going to help us move that needle? If you don't know what's going to help you, then really it's trial and error. It's throwing a bunch of things on the wall and seeing what sticks. So you can talk to your friends, talk to your family, Google, look at all the different ways that people utilize self-care to help them mentally, and just start doing some of them and seeing if it helps you. If it doesn't help you, then move on to something else. All that matters is that you find something that is going to help you. Now, if you do know some of the practices that do help you, then you just have to make sure that you're doing it. I'm guilty of sometimes being in a headspace that's just not that great. And even though I know what I need to do, I just can't push myself to do it in that moment. And that's okay. If you just don't feel like you're ready or you're in a mental place where you can do that right now, that is okay. But the important part is that you do start back up again, that you don't allow yourself to stay stuck and too much time to pass before you start doing those practices again. So it's okay to take a little bit of a break from your self-care practice. Sometimes we need a break, but it's very important to make sure that you hop back on that wagon and do the things that you know you need to do for your mental state. Now I would like to talk to you about some of the things that I do personally for my self-care and things that I also always recommend to other people who ask me about it. So my number one is therapy. I know that some people, a lot of people, feel a certain type of way about therapy and that you have to have something severely wrong with you to have to go to therapy. And I don't agree with that. I think that even if you're just dealing with daily stress, you can benefit from going to therapy. Just to have a professional to talk with and just that back and forth and knowing that someone's listening to you, really listening to you, and can give you tools to use to help get you where you want to go. So for me, I experienced trauma at a young age. Through high school, I dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression. So I've been in and out of therapy quite a lot. But as an adult, I still use it as a self-care practice because I think it's important. There's, anytime that I have something as an adult that I'm just not able to work through on my own, that's when I kind of fall back to therapy and get that help that I need. I know what I want to do and how to get there, so I go to someone that I know is going to be able to help. So aside from therapy, if you can't tell, but I'm a big fan, something else that I utilize is journaling. Now, I've never was a big journaler whenever I was young. I just didn't get into it, I didn't do it. I would color and do all of that, but not so much the journaling. So a few years after I graduated college, I was trying to find my way in my career, just feeling a little stuck. So one of my friends from college, she started a business and she developed a product called the Journal Deck. Now I was feeling a little stuck and I saw she launched this new product, and to be honest, I really just wanted to support her. So I bought the Journal Deck and I started to use it. I figured, I'm feeling a little stuck, why not give it a try? Alyssa has so much passion around journaling, especially with self-care, and let's just go for it. Let's try something new. If I didn't like it, I knew that I didn't have to do it. So I started journaling, and it was critical to really help me move to a space of growth and figuring out what my next step was. I am a person that doesn't always know how I'm feeling. So I can be in a bad headspace, but I don't know why. I've always struggled with really identifying what my feelings are sometimes. And so being able to journal and do these awesome prompts that Alyssa comes up for you in this deck was so helpful at figuring out what exactly I wanted and what I needed to do. And it pushed me to ask for advice from someone that I did not know and put me in the position that I am today and able to talk to all of you. So journaling is very beneficial in my opinion to utilize as one of the tools to help you get to where you want to go. So I do have the journal deck here. So a little plug for Alyssa, and you can find it at the journal deck online. Lastly, I want to touch on mental health days and practicing our no. So first, for mental health days, it's not just important to rest our bodies when we're tired, but it's very important to rest our minds. When I say that, I mean that we all feel burnout for one reason or another. And we can feel that. We can feel in our chest. We know when we need a break and when our mind is just so heavy. We know. So it's very important that when we feel like that we take a break and allow ourselves to rest and reset. Now, you might need a day, you might need two. Even if you don't need that much time, taking a break when you're feeling overwhelmed and taking that time to just give yourself what your mind needs is going to be so good for you. It's going to feel so good, and it's going to help you move past those overwhelming feelings and alleviate that stress and anxiety or whatever else that you're feeling, because you're saying yes. You're saying yes to you needing time to just rest. And that's very important, especially if you're a person like I am who does everything. I have a very strong drive to be working hard, and sometimes I overwork myself. No one's asking me to work that hard, but I just feel like I have to. And so because of that, I need breaks. I need to say it is okay to take a day to just not do anything. And so that is very important. After that is practicing our no. So this is still one of the hardest things for me as a person, is to say no to things. I know that sounds silly to some, but I am a people pleaser. I don't like to say no. I would rather put myself in an uncomfortable position or do something that I don't want to do than to make someone else feel bad or disappointed, or many different things that pop in my head as to what saying no will result in. But it's important to note that it's okay to say no. That is a boundary, really, but it's a way that we can choose ourselves and our mental state and do that with intention. Like, if there's something that you just really don't want to do, say no. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't say yes to anything you don't want to do ever again, because I don't agree with that. That's not realistic. That's not life. We all have to do things that we don't want to do, but there's a limit to that, and we shouldn't be expected to do it all, because we are one person and we cannot do it all, even if we want to. Especially as women, I think that we have that drive a little bit more to say yes, even though it's something that we might not want to do. And so I think it's important that, when we are feeling especially when we're feeling overwhelmed, that we say no if it's something that we really just don't want to do. And when you say no, it feels so good. Like, let me tell you, when you really just in your core, you do not want to do something and you say no, it just, that picking yourself and your mental health over the expectations of you doing something for another person, it feels very empowering, and it just feels validating because you're picking yourself. Like, you are saying that, you know what, today I just can't do that one thing that you're asking for me. So no. And that's amazing. It really is, to be able to have the power and the courage to practice your no when you know that it's going to take something from you for saying yes. Now, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, there are so many things you can do to practice self-care in regards to your mental health. But those are just some of the things that I always like to suggest and talk to people about because they've always worked for me and still do, and I value those practices in particular and wanted to share them with you as potential options that might help you move the needle and help you grow and get to where you want to be mentally. Mental health and self-care are about prioritizing ourselves. So it's about utilizing it in a manner that we are helping ourselves. It's not just doing self-care willy-nilly without a plan. It's utilizing it as a tool so that we can grow and be who we would like to be. And I think that is the most empowering thing, that we have the ability to get to wherever we want to go. And all we have to do is find these self-care practices that are going to help us move the needle and get there. And that's really my goal out of this series, is that I really want people to be looking at self-care as more than just a bubble bath or a glass of wine after a hard day. It can be those things, but it can also be so much more. And I would like people to be utilizing it as that so much more, because it is important and it can work wonders on our happiness and our growth and really anything that we want to do in life. It can benefit. So I hope this first episode was helpful and inspiring and gave you some things to think about and maybe some potential new practices to work into what you already do or to just start doing. I thank you all for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye.